Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Lord KO here, and we'll be talking about episode 4 of the Netplay Hero, building the perfect team. So this is going to be kind of a topic that's always been on my mind ever since I first joined the Dissidia community, honestly. And what we talk about today isn't going to be necessarily the characters on the screen. It's going to be the players themselves. Actual player synergy, team synergy, all of that in and outs. That's what I really want to dive into today. I know that the actual character synergy has been discussed to death. I, for one, have made at least 2 or 3 videos about that. And I think after a while it becomes very apparent and palpable as to what works together and what doesn't. It's very, very clear. But on the other side of the spectrum, a lot of people that just haven't ever really been into team games, honestly, ever, like I can probably raise my hand for that. I played a lot of old school COD, well, I guess it's old school now, original Black Ops, Modern Warfare 3, stuff like that, but I didn't really ever I joined maybe a few clans and stuff like that, but I'm not really one of those people that put on that headset during gaming. I'm not one of those. I'd rather just play in silence or with music on and stuff like that. So I really never developed that whole situation where you're really good with playing with other players. You have good call outs, good awareness. You're watching each other's back. You know where you need to be in order to complement your teammates or your team members or your clan members and stuff like that. And I just really never developed that skill because I just never played like that. So to go to a game that's actually 100% team-based like Dissidia NT was definitely a bit of a change for me. I was the raw picked marksman. The original character that I played was Ace, right? So needless to say, shoots require protection. And that was something that a lot of people, me included, just failed to grasp properly. I never could understand at the beginning. I was like, why? I feel like I'm doing everything correct, but we're still losing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not dying. I'm not feeding brave, but we're still losing. And it's just in a game like this, if one piece is a miss, or it doesn't even have to be a miss, somebody can actually play and understand the game at a pretty high level, but if they're just not up to par with the enemy or even their own teammates, it is very noticeable immediately. I would say within the last 1 or 2 months, I've played a lot of scrims, and there can be a really great shell, right? 2 players that are really insanely good, and if you put them with a third player that they aren't used to, and they could be pretty good, you know what I mean? They could know their stuff, and they'll have good 1v1s, good decisions, all that. It's just, it won't coalesce, you know what I mean? This isn't one of those games where you can just pick 3 really good players and it's just gonna work out every time. And in fact, I find that the opposite is often quite true. It doesn't really work out most of the time, just because everybody's perspective at this game is kind of on its own little axis. If you ask somebody how to play Dissidia NT, they can give you the basics of 3 roles, what you're supposed to be doing, but a lot of the nuances or people's personal feelings about the game or views on the game really reflects in their gameplay and their play style. So when you take that and you try and mesh that against somebody that has their own that you maybe never played with, or you play with them in a very limited fashion, or maybe you just watch them play, it's just not something that you're going to be able to just hit the ground running with. It takes a lot of growing pains. You got to really take your L's out there. You got to take your lumps. And I think that's one of the reasons that we either have a lot of legacy teams, like teams that have played together forever and ever. They know who works well together and they just stick with that. Makes sense. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That makes sense. And past a certain point, I'll probably definitely put myself in this category. You just know that it's just not worth the frustration or the aggravation to try and pair with people that they just don't see the game the same way you do, or they make decisions that just don't make sense to you. So it would be a lot to overcome that mindset and really try and put yourself in their mindset. If it's too stark of a change between you and them, it's never gonna work. And you guys can be the best friends in real life, you know what I mean? You guys can be the coolest kids that ever lived, you know what I mean? Outside the game, you guys might get along perfectly, but if you see the game so differently from your partner, it's just too fucking hard, honestly. I've been in that situation where, man, it'd be people I can talk to all day long, man, that's the homie. But when we go to play, we're just on 2 different pages and we can just never get on the same page. And that's something that's pretty interesting, you know what I mean? So it's, you don't really want to point fingers, like who's right, who's wrong. It's just, you're kind of looking at it from 2 different angles almost. So that's why player synergy is something that I think is very fascinating, but it's just not really discussed a lot, honestly. So a couple things I want to go over is finding appropriate teammates, right? So that's a number one thing that a lot of people always struggle with is, hey, I can't find a team. I want a team, I can't find a team. They might have used the team finder and stuff like that, but it just doesn't work out. My suggestion for this, and this is always a good base to start with, is well, maybe not anymore. It used to be a really good base. People that are in solo queue all the time, like they are clearly available, you know, if they're in solo queue all the time, and you're watching their performance, if they're winning a lot, or their decision makings, or hell, if they're giving you a hard time, right? If you're like, damn, this is difficult. It's hard to fight this guy, or I don't want to fight this guy. And I don't mean because like it's laggy or, you know, this connection's trash or something like that. It's like they genuinely are outplaying you consistently. Situations like that, use that as a good opportunity to just, you know, extend the olive branch and be like, yo, I used to just message people on PSN and be like, yo, are you interested in like joining a team? Do you have Discord and stuff like that? During the early days of the game, I did that a lot, like within the first year, and I actually ended up with a pretty good draw on my first team. I ended up with Saren and Philios, and all three of us have like the same disposition actually. Me and Saren are pretty laid back. Out of all three of them, I think I'm probably the one that might actually get like more visibly annoyed than the other two. But Philios is very laid back, chill individual, and Saren is also. So that was like kind of a really fortuitous for all three of us. You know what I mean? We're all pretty decent players at that time. I think obviously we've all gotten way better from there, but we meshed well enough together in order for it to actually work, and that was pretty dope. You know what I mean? It doesn't always work out like that, and I don't think that it's no shame in saying that, hey, this doesn't work, you know, or this isn't working. I definitely was on like one or two teams that I didn't understand the game enough, and they certainly didn't either. They thought they did. So it just created a situation of like endless animosity. I'm like, hey, you're not doing X, and they're like, you're not doing Y, and there's a bunch of finger pointing, and you can never improve when that mindset's on the table, that you're never going to go anywhere. So, you know, definitely finding somebody that has kind of the same demeanor as you. That's the number one thing I would say. Somebody that's either pretty laid back with you, somebody that doesn't really make you feel that, I think this is one thing for me in particular, somebody that doesn't get you inside your own head. If you're playing with somebody and they put you in a state of anxiety because you think you're going to get yelled at by, hey man, why didn't you do this setup? Or hey man, you're not holding for me, or hey, you're not taking my setups, and stuff like that. If that's all always in your head, you are going to play worse. You're going to play markedly worse than you would than just somebody that's kind of being chill, or, you know, it's not the end of the world if you win or lose. I always find myself playing way better with people that are they're just chill. You know, I'd rather play with people that are chill, and well, thankfully most of the people that are chill are actually pretty good at the game, but I'd take somebody that's chill over somebody that's really insanely good, but they're gonna like be on your ass about every little thing, because that's gonna ultimately get you in your head. And I understand that mindset is to help you improve, but not everybody's receptive in that kind of format. And a lot of different teams have different approaches to how they want to improve. You know, there might be VOD breakdowns, or they go back and look at the tournaments or look at the scrims. Hey, you should have did this instead of that. And that's all fine. But it depends on how you actually learn also. Do you learn from like critical feedback, or does it need to be kind of more like soft spoken? Or everybody has different strokes and stuff like that. I think that's one of the most important things when it comes into actually identifying a teammate that's going to work for you. An overall team that's going to work for you. There are certain teammates that just maybe don't talk as much. Like I had a few teammates like they just don't talk. You know what I mean? Philios was notorious, never talked. I played with Polar a bunch. Polar never talked, very, very rarely. And now I play with Jay, and he really doesn't talk either. He types and stuff like that, but that's fine. It depends on, are you able to play with that? You know, or do you need all three people with you in VC saying every little thing? You know, what kind of voice commands work for you? Do you like abundance of information, like hey, the Emperor just threw a flare out there, Rangers on you, or hey, I'm going to get the core? Or do you like just bare bone communications, like hey, there's an HP on you, you know, that's it, or hey, I'm going to get the core, like just very basic subtle stuff? Or do you just want the in-game commands? There's so much that goes into like actual communication within the player synergy. It's crazy. I'm one that I can kind of go communication wise. I generally tend to be the one to do the call outs and stuff like that, and I might be the one that's actually flooding everybody with a lot of information. That works for some people, it doesn't work for other people, but it depends, right? Some people are just like, yo, you're just saying too much stuff. Like you're just flooding us out with information, and a lot of it's just not helpful. So that's also something that's really important as well. You know, and then also being open to experimentation, I think is something that's pretty open with when you're actually trying to find a team that's going to work for you. If something isn't working, right, it's just not working, right? Hey, maybe me on speed's not working, maybe I need to try heavy out. ideally a teammate would know all 3 roles, right? There's a lot of people that don't know all 3 roles. They might just know 2 roles, right? I think that's most prominent in NA, right? So most people just know 2 roles really well. Like I would say I know shoot and heavy pretty damn well. Like I know all the characters pretty much for the most part, maybe except for Furion, which we don't talk about. And I don't know shoot Onion Knight. But maybe it's just not working, right? Maybe me on heavy is just not working, or my shoot just is getting harassed too much. Maybe I'll switch to heavy and maybe that'll work out. Maybe I'll switch to shoot and maybe that'll work out more. It just depends on the approach that you want to take, and I think having multiple team members that know different roles definitely gives you a little bit of variety, because no one plays the same role exactly 1-to-1, right? So say I went off a shoot and then I went to speed, right, or something like that. That's going to be way different from some of my other teammate playing shoot. Maybe they just are more neutral heavy, or maybe they try and build their brave until they get killing. It's going to be a completely different ball game depending on how you approach it. And maybe it doesn't go so well. Maybe I'm just so bad on speed that, like, hey, I'm just feeding my ass off and dying. And maybe my shoot just doesn't know how to rotate. So it doesn't always work out. But I think the experimentation aspect and being open to it, not necessarily it always being successful, being open to the idea, I think is something that's really important. If you can experiment and see what works, or at least have a backup plan, like, hey, this is going to work out, or hey, it's not working out, let's try this instead. I think that's really important. That can definitely clutch out situations for you. If you're in a tournament and it's like, hey, let's try this, let's try this other comp that we've been experimenting with. I've definitely seen that clutch out Friday night fights and just tournaments overall. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And, outside of just overall player synergy, having people that, I think the biggest thing, honestly, is just having people that you're genuinely friends with. You're cool with them. You're not in VC arguing, pointing fingers, blame, all that stuff. You see all that stuff happening, then there is something that is probably not going to work. There's a fundamental issue within that team, and it's probably best if one or more members probably leave. You might want to try another shell. So always start out with one person, and then from that other person, see if they know anybody else that's pretty good. Try and find that third team member. But there's still some people playing solo queue. You can maybe try and find a team member there. If not, you can certainly join some of the casual lobbies and see, hey, this guy's pretty damn good. I don't think he's on a team or anything like that. Let me see if he's open to playing with me. Sometimes all it takes sometimes I would say in this community, you're best rewarded if you're the initiator. Most people are pretty flattered. They're like, oh, you think I'm good? Like, sure, yeah, I'm down to at least try and play with you. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, but I would say that you'll never know until you actually try, right? Try and throw the olive branch out there, try and find a teammate. It's just too important to just kind of leave it in the wind or just like randomly just try and put a team together at the last moment. Sometimes that does work, but it depends on what you want out of the game. The game's near the end of its lifespan, unfortunately. So there's not like a huge amount of tournaments or exhibitions or anything like that. They're pretty sparse. But maybe you just want to still play scrims. I think scrims are probably the most fun thing you can do in this game. Solo queue's trash. Always been trash. Lobbies are kind of fun. They're like 50-50 on the fun side. But scrims with coordinated effort with people you trust, I think is the most entertaining value you can get out of this game. But in order to do that, you need a team. And in order to get a team, you need people you trust and you click with, people there's a mutual respect for. So that's just a couple ideas, you know what I mean? I think the number one thing with teams is be ready to take your lumps, man. There's going to be some L's, especially if you're reaching out to some of these seasoned teams. Man, there's gonna be some L's. Like, be ready to lose, but don't lose motivation. This is like anything else like in life, right? You take the L, but you don't give up. Just keep going. If you get bodied, go back, look at your VOD, see what happened, and maybe you need to level up individually. Like, just really be critical of your own how you perform. Like, hey, my awareness is bad right here, or my target selection was bad right here, or I overextended and got set up right here, or I'm feeding a hella lot of brave. Like, I fed 2 breaks in less than a minute. You got to be real with yourself. You got to really level with yourself to see what you're doing, because it's just it's like a butterfly effect. Every little thing that happens in a match culminates, and it just it's a perpetual cycle. Now the shoot has killing. All right, now somebody died because you fed them brave, or hey, I knocked this person back, now we can go in. Every little thing that happens in this game just creates such a cycle, and it can be really, really unforgiving at times. Really just insanely unforgiving. So you need that team to be strong and to mentally be there with you, honestly. It really just, it comes down to trust, you know, knowing your teammates, knowing who to trust. And that's probably some of the biggest elements when it comes to team synergy overall. That's just kind of some thoughts that I had about it. I could do this all day, actually. I haven't really been writing down anything for these episodes. Kind of want to freestyle off the top of my head, trying to get more practice for this. But I think team synergy is utterly fascinating, actually. You know, and I know a lot of this goes well beyond Dissidia. You know, there's a lot of real gurus and guides that'll tell you a lot more than I did, but I know Dissidia better than them. You know what I'm saying? So I think those are the core tenets that you want to really follow. Team synergy, have some people you trust, have some people you can have fun with, and have some people that aren't going to fucking put you in a negative mindset. Even if they're really fucking good. If they're really fucking good but toxic, it's not worth it. I swear it's not worth it. It's not worth your mental headspace. All right, but we're going to go ahead and close up here. We should be having a Friday Night Fights here within the next 1 to 2 weeks, but we will be having a pretty interesting exhibition coming up. My birthday, September 4th, right? So we're going to have a birthday Friday Night Fights, and what I'm planning is NA versus EU 3v3, and hopefully we'll get some more details here in a moment and see how everything shakes out with that, but that should be pretty hype. I'm liking a lot of what I'm seeing out of EU, a lot. They're probably the most active of all the communities right now. They play like daily. And they might have a scrim once a week. And that's all the teams. Out of all the teams, we might have one scrim out of the whole week. But shout out to the guys over there in EU. But if you like what you see out here, guys, definitely like, comment, subscribe, help the boy out. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for tuning out. Bye.